Welcome back to Cybersecurity Diaries, Episode 2. We will review the last week's news, headlines from cybersecurity world, and discuss what were the trends, what happened in the news, any major data breaches, and things like that. So I've been thinking about how to direct these diaries. So I have a few ideas and few directions that we're going to take throughout the podcasting series. But first of all, I wanted to look at a few different things at cybersecurity news and headlines from various sources that normally are monitored during the week. Throughout the series, we will also discuss how we enhance and build our cybersecurity programs. I've showcased the videos of how to build one, but actually I guess it would be interesting to view and share with you guys how I'm enhancing and building that program, and then obviously go deeper in specific topics. How we what's on the forefront on many senior executives' minds within the cybersecurity. Things like how do we secure our Kubernetes clusters. There's a lot of interesting ideas happening in API security. So some of the things that sometimes are potentially overlooked or sometimes not put enough attention to detail, I guess. So let's dig deeper into this week's episode and what's in cybersecurity news this week. So first of all, there was a cyber attack that disrupted UK property deals, and house sales and purchases across the UK have been disrupted by a cyber attack affecting multiple conveyancing firms. So CTS, which is a legal sector specialist infrastructure service provider, confirmed in a statement that it has experienced a service outage caused by a cyber incident. So the firm said that cyber attack has impacted a portion of the services it delivers to some of its clients. So the outage is believed to have affected up to 200 law firms that uses CTS services. So this prevents conveyancing companies from accessing the necessary systems to progress property transactions. So numerous UK law firms, including O'Neill Patient, Talbot Law, and Taylor Rose MW, have issued statements informing customers that they are currently experiencing service difficulties due to technical outage affecting multiple organizations within the legal sector. As you can see, there are just got a couple of screenshots from the website. So the incident threatens to severely delay many exchanges and completions that are due to take place today, which was on the 24th of November. The CTS said it is working with third-party experts, including a leading global forensics firms, to help investigate the incident and restore its services. So there's a statement from a spokesman from a company. So while we are confident that will be able to restore services, we are unable to give a precise timeline for full restoration. We will continue to communicate directly with those of our clients which are impacted by the service outage, providing regular updates on the status of our work to restore the services and our investigations into the incident. That's what the company wrote. So the CEO of the company noted that delays to the house buying and selling processes could cause significant personal damage to those impacted. You also added that the dangers posed by having increasingly interconnected supply chains, where a breach of a single organization can potentially impact hundreds or even thousands of businesses. It sounds like estate agents and conveyancers are being impacted as a result of the attack on the CTS, which highlights the difficulties of depending so heavily on a third-party software. Suddenly, everything comes to a halt. It's not just the target of the attack that suffers the consequences. So I think that just highlights again, these days we're more and more discussing supply chain cyber attacks and what's happening. So as this showcases, obviously there's about 200 UK law firms that use the same software from CTS, which obviously once you breach somebody further up the supply chain, obviously it affects a lot of law firms, a lot of customers potentially, suffering without being able to complete the, home purchase deals. So that's the main headline from this. Next, I think we all are, aware when specific holidays, specific, events, especially such as Black Friday. So it's a big online shopping event. Obviously, threat actors are not sleeping, so they're using this as a chance to potentially exploit customers. So as we can see, Black Friday phishing emails soar up to 237%. So the main headlines are that, security researchers have warned of triple-digit increase in the volume of phishing emails designed to trick shoppers ahead of the Black Friday online sales bonanza, which obviously started over this weekend. So for the past few years, the Amazon-inspired event has signaled the unofficial start of the busy shopping season running through to end of December. However, it also represents a major opportunity for the scammers to trick users into handling over logins and personal financial information or clicking on the malicious links or attachments. So between the November 1st and November 14th this year, security vendor Egress has detected a 237 increase in phishing emails relating to specifically to the Black Friday and Cyber Monday versus the same period from September 1st and October 31st. So the VP of Threat Intelligence mentioned in this article that this year our threat intelligence analysts have seen a range of attacks, including a high number of phishing emails impersonating globally recognized brands. So cybercriminals are deploying a range of tactics to enable these impersonation emails to get through the perimeter security and then trick recipients into falling victim. So I'll just extracting some of the main examples and some of the main tactics that they use. They use things like stylized HTML templates to impersonate brands featuring official logos and footers. So obviously, threat actors can and are able to steal the style of how specific brands build their HTML templates or their websites essentially, and look pretty much legitimate. They can create a legitimate hyperlinks to the impersonated brand site to help bypass link scanning detection. They also hijacked or spoofed lookalike domain names, which are very subtly different to the legitimate version. So what normally the threat actors are doing, they using various different alphabets to create similar letters, such as Cyrillic alphabet or other alphabets that A might look different in various alphabets. So it's a very subtle difference, but it can be mislead potential customers or in clicking the link. They're also using social engineering tactics such as subject lines offering rewards or time limited offers. They use social engineering, and social engineering is the one of the tactics where you tell the customer that it's only available today or this weekend. So obviously forcing people to hand over the information. So that's one of the tactics. Obfuscation techniques, meaning that users won't see the URL of a phishing site if they hover over a shop now button embedded in the email. So slowing down essentially the important things are how we can stop and how we can detect those attacks, especially over the weekend. I always say, if things are too good to be true, then normally they are fake. But it's important, slowing down to check the legitimacy of an offer. For example, by checking social media feeds or contacting the provider another way can help people determine whether discount is real or fake. So it's important. I always say to people, if you get a specific email to a specific link or specific brand, always go directly to the brand instead of clicking a link. So you can Google the brand and find out whether, on their website, whether that deal is legitimate. Ultimately, however, when cyber criminals are using sophisticated tactics, people and organizations need to ensure they have the right anti-phishing and anti-malware protection in place to detect and prevent attacks, whether they, working at home or are at work. So just be aware of, some of these scams that are circling around, especially now during the Black Friday. Next one. So this is a big one. So Kubernetes secrets of Fortune 500 companies exposed in public repositories. I just kind of alluded in the beginning, and I think potentially there is a need to create a whole another episode just talking about Kubernetes misconfigurations, because Kubernetes and Kubernetes security is a vast topic that I think sometimes organizations jump into, building their product or utilizing Kubernetes clusters without understanding how to properly configure it and how to properly secure it, and understanding the potential risks and dangers of Kubernetes misconfiguration. So that, this article perfectly highlights, headlines how people are not really aware of and understanding the difficulty of getting Kubernetes right. So cybersecurity researchers are warning of publicly exposed Kubernetes configuration secrets that could put organizations at risk of supply chain attacks. So as you can see, I extracted some of the exposed secrets, but essentially these encoded Kubernetes configuration secrets were uploaded to public repositories, which was highlighted by Aqua Security researchers. Some of these impacted include 2 top blockchain companies and various other Fortune 500 companies. Essentially what they did is they leveraged GitHub API to fetch all entries containing .docker configuration.json and .docker config types that store credentials for accessing a container image registry. So as you can see, of the 438 records that potentially held valid credentials for registries, 203 records, which is about 46%, contained valid credentials that provided access to the respective registries. 93 of the passwords were manually set by individuals, as opposed to 345 that were computer generated. In the majority of these cases, credentials allowed for both pulling and pushing privileges. Moreover, we often discovered private container images within most of these registries. Furthermore, nearly 50% of the 93 passwords were deemed weak. So some of these compromised passwords were passwords such as, test 123456, Windows 12, change me, and Docker Hub, among others. So, this just highlights the critical need for organizational password policies that enforces strict password creation rules to prevent the use of such vulnerable passwords. Also, Aqua highlighted, that they found instances where organizations fail to remove secrets from the files that are committed to the public repositories on GitHub, leading to inadvertent exposure. But on the positive note, all the credentials associated with the AWS and Google Container Registry were found to be temporary and expired, making access impossible. So in a similar vein, the GitHub Container Registry requires 2-factor authentication as an added layer against unauthorized access. So in some cases, the keys were encrypted, and thus there was nothing to do with the key. In some cases, while the key was valid, it had minimal privileges, often just to pull or download a specific artifact or an image. So another one, it's according to Red Hat's State of Kubernetes Security report released earlier this year. Vulnerabilities and misconfigurations emerge as top security concerns for container environments, with 37% of the total 600 respondents identifying, revenue and customer loss as a result of a container and Kubernetes security incident. So as I mentioned, it's Kubernetes misconfiguration and security is a very important topic. So I'll probably circle back to this topic and create a video just from experience and just from security best practices and what to look out for when deploying Kubernetes clusters. So another headline from previous week is hackers pose as officials to steal secrets and cryptocurrency for North Korea. So a hacking gang has been accused of impersonating South Korean officials and journalists in a plot to steal cryptocurrency for the North Korean regime. So according to the local media reports, South Korea's police agency has confirmed that between March and October 2023, there was a total of nearly 1,500 people who fell victim to the campaign which attempted to install malware onto their computers. So amongst the victims, there were 57 current or retired government officials working in the field of diplomacy, military, and national security. So it's been attributed to Kim Saki, which is a state-sponsored hacking group which has targeted organizations around the world in an attempt to steal intelligence and money for the North Korean government. It is thought to be behind the wave of attacks which attempted to steal victims' personal information, IDs, and passwords, as well as cryptocurrency. So according to the North Korean National Police Agency, the statistics show an almost 30-fold increase in the number of email accounts hijacked by Kim Saki over the previous year. So according to the authorities, this reflects essentially that the hacking group has broadened out its attacks to the broader general public, which were previously mostly targeted against diplomats and security experts. So sending booby-trapped emails to its intended victims in the latest attacks, Kim Saki disguised itself as a various government organizations, research institutes, and journalists. So social engineering tricks are used in the emails to lure the unwary recipients into clicking on malicious links, opening the attached file, which could result in victims' computers being infected with malware. It's also important to note that according to Kim Saki, which is also sometimes known as Thallium or Black Banshee or Velvet Kolaima, they had been acting since at least 2012, which has previously been reported as targeting members of the United Nations Security Council and South Korea's Atomic Energy Research Institute. So earlier this year, the United States and South Korea issued a joint cybersecurity advisory about the Kim Saki hacking gang, and South Korea claimed that the group had been directly or indirectly engaged in North Korea's so-called satellite development by stealing cutting-edge technologies on weapons development, satellite, and space. So, raising tensions in the region, North Korea was reported yesterday to have successfully launched its first spy satellite into the orbit. So individuals and organizations who believe they might be a victim from such attack would be advised not only to run a good up-to-date antivirus product, but also ensure that they have enabled multi-factor authentication to harden their accounts. They are also using unique, hard-to-crack passwords, and also have warned users of the dangers of opening suspicious documents. So last month, authorities in the United States and South Korea warned companies of the risk that they might have inadvertently recruited North Korean spies to work remotely for their IT department, providing yet another vector for hackers to break into organizations. So obviously, there's a lot of state-sponsored headlines and news every week that something has been discovered, but sometimes it's even hard to comprehend how wide of a net of state-sponsored attacks are grabbing, and what tactics they're using for to monitoring not only other organizations and other countries, but as well as their own people, to making sure that they can detect any malice, but as well as monitor people just in their day-to-day lives. So it's something to always to be aware of. Next one, so this is another a big one. So new flaws in fingerprint sensors let attackers bypass Windows Hello organization. So obviously, over the years, everyone was moving. We are sort of, we've been talking around password security, but some organizations have been moving and leveraging passwordless authentication, which seem to be, much more secure because there is no password. So obviously it's very hard there's nothing to brute force. But obviously, as we can see from this headline, obviously it's not the case. It can be potentially bypassed. So new research has uncovered multiple vulnerabilities that could be exploited to bypass Windows Hello authentication. Especially, I think it's linked to a few specific laptops. So it mentions Dell Inspiron 15, Lenovo ThinkPad T14, and Microsoft Surface Pro X laptops. So the flaws were discovered by researchers at hardware and software product security and offensive research firm Blackwing Intelligence. So who found the weaknesses in the fingerprint sensors from the Godix Synaptics and ELAN that are embedded into the devices. So a prerequisite for the fingerprint reader exploits is that the users of the targeted laptops have fingerprint authentication already set up. All the three fingerprint sensors are type of sensors called match on chip, which integrates the matching and other biometric management functions directly into sensors integrated circuit. So while the MOC prevents replaying stored fingerprint data to the host for matching, it does not in itself prevent a malicious sensor from spoofing a legitimate sensor's communication with a host and falsely claiming that an authorized user has successfully authenticated. So the MOC does not prevent replay of previously recorded traffic between the host and the sensor. So although the secure device connection protocol created by Microsoft aims to alleviate some of these problems by creating an end-to-end secure channel, the researchers uncovered a novel method that could be used to circumvent these protections as stage adversary in the middle attacks. So especially, ELAN sensor was found to be vulnerable to a combination of sensor spoofing stemming from the lack of SDCP support and the clear text transmission of security identifiers, so thereby allowing any USB device to masquerade as the fingerprint sensor and claim that an authorized user is logged in. In the case of Synaptics, not only was the SDCP discovered to be turned off by default, the implementation chose to rely on a flawed customer transport layer security stack to ensure USB communications between the host driver and the sensor that could be weaponized to sidestep biometric authentication. And the exploitation of Godix sensor, on the other hand, capitalizes on a fundamental difference in enrolling operations carried out on a machine that's loaded with both Windows and Linux, taking advantage of the fact that latter does not support SDCP to perform the following actions. So boot to Linux, enumerate valid IDs, enroll attacker's fingerprint using the same ID as a legitimate Windows user, man in the middle the connection between the host and the sensor by leveraging the clear text USB communication, boot to Windows, intercept and rewrite configuration packet point to the Linux DB using man-in-the-middle attacks. So it's worth pointing out that while the Goodix sensor has separate fingerprint template databases for Windows and non-Windows systems, the attack is possible owing to the fact that the host driver sends an authenticated configuration packet to the sensor to specify what database to use during sensor initiation. So to mitigate such attacks, it is recommended that original equipment manufacturers enable SDCP and ensure that the fingerprint sensor implementation is audited by independent qualified experts. So this is a big one, obviously. As it's highlighted, obviously, it's only to the specific sensors that are used in specific laptops, but bypassing fingerprint authentication, it's quite a big problem, obviously, because people obviously switched, as I mentioned, from passwords to fingerprints, obviously thinking that they're going to be more secure, which is obviously, as this highlights, is not the case. So next one, this is a big one as well. So I think there's been murmurs around this throughout the number of years, but now, obviously this highlight again just highlights that North Korean hackers are posing as job recruiters and seekers in their malware campaigns. So North Korean threat actors have been linked to two campaigns in which they masquerade as both the job recruiters and job seekers to distribute malware and obtain unauthorized employment with organizations based in the United States and other parts of the world. So the activity clusters have been codenamed Contagious Interview and WageMo, respectively, by Palo Alto Unit 42. So while the first set of attacks aims to infect software developers with malware through a fictitious job interview, the latter is designed for financial gain and espionage. So the first campaign's objective is likely cryptocurrency theft and using compromised targets as a staging environment for additional attacks. The fraudulent job-seeking activity, on the other hand, involves the use of a GitHub repository to host resumes with forged identities that impersonate individuals of various nationalities. The contagious interview attacks paved the way for two hit hero undocumented cross-platform malware named Beavertrail and Invisible Ferret that can run on Windows, Linux, as well as macOS. So it's worth noting that intrusion set shares tactical overlaps with previously reported North Korean threat activity dubbed Operation Dream Job, which involves approaching employees with potential job offers and tricking them into downloading a malicious tools, essentially a rogue NPM package hosted on GitHub, in this case as part of an online interview. So the threat actor likely presents a package to the victim as a software to review or to analyze, but actually contains malicious JavaScript designed to infect the victim's host with a backdoor malware. So Beavertrail, essentially, which is a JavaScript implant, is a stealer and a loader that comes with capabilities to steal sensitive information from web browsers and crypto wallets and deliver additional payloads, including Invisible Ferret, a Python-based backdoor, essentially with fingerprinting, remote control, key logging, and data exfiltration features. So Invisible Ferret is also designed to download the AnyDesk client from an actor-controlled server for remote access. Earlier this month, Microsoft warned that the infamous Lazaro Group, a subcluster referred to as Sapphire Sleet or Blue North, has established new infrastructure that impersonates skills assessment, essentially portals, as part of its social engineering campaigns. So this is not the first time that North Korean threat actors have abused bogus modules in NPM and PyPy. In late July and June 2023, Phylum and GitHub detailed a social engineering campaign that targeted the personal GitHub accounts of employees working in technology firms to disseminate and counterfeit NPM package under the guise of collaborating as an open source project. So attacks have been attributed to another cluster known as Jade Sleet, which is also called Traitor or UNC 4899, and has been implicated in the Jump Cloud hack that took place around the same time. So discovery of the rage mole echoes a recent advisory from the US government, which disclosed North Korea's subterfuge to beat sanctions by dispatching an army of highly skilled IT workers who obtain employment in several companies globally and funnel back their wages to fund the country's weapons programs. Some resumes include links to a LinkedIn page and links to a GitHub content. These GitHub accounts appear to be maintained and have a lengthy activity history. These accounts indicate frequent code updates and socialization with other developers. As a result, these GitHub accounts are nearly indistinguishable from legitimate accounts. So, the development comes as North Korea claimed that it has successfully put a military spy satellite into space after 2 unsuccessful attempts in May and August this year. It also follows a new attack campaign orchestrated by North Korea, linked to Andariel Group, another subordinate element with Lazarus, to deliver Black Rat, Lilith Rat, Nuke Sped, and Tiger Rats by infiltrating vulnerable MS SQL servers, as well as via supply chain attacks using the South Korean asset management software. So software developers are often the weakest link in the supply chain, and fraudulent job offers are an ongoing concern. So we expect continued activity from contagious, essentially groups. So as you can see, there's a few images as well to showcase, the profiles that they developed, what's the attack method and how it's been done. So as you can see, Beaver Trail is and essentially creates an essential initial script, as well as fingerprint and control and information stealer, as well as browser stealer component, and also create downloaded any desk software that allows remote access. Next on the news, so this is a big one. This is again, this goes to the importance of of personal integrity and honesty to be able to work in cybersecurity. So it's been leaked that cybersecurity executive who's pleading guilty to hacking hospitals. So to me, that's a very concerning headline. So the chief operating officer of a US network security firm has pleaded guilty to compromising the IT systems of 2 hospitals in order to generate business for the company. So essentially, the guy decided to hack 2 hospitals in order to gain more business. So Securalytics executive Vika Singla admitted hacking Gwinnett Medical Center hospitals in Duluth and Lawrenceville, Georgia, as explained in 2021 indictment. The incidents, which took place in September 2018, began when Singla modified the configuration files of GMC Duluth Hospital's ASCOM phone system, rendering over 200 handsets inoperable, the plea agreement revealed. That disrupted essentially, this disrupted the work of nurses and doctors who use the phones to coordinate code blue emergencies and other work, the document said. The same day, Singla managed to steal personal information of over 300 patients from password-protected Hologic R2 digitizer, which was connected to a mammogram machine at the Lawrenceville Hospital. He also transmitted commands resulting in over 200 printers at both hospitals printing out the stolen personal information, interspersed essentially with the message, "We own you." So on October 2nd, 2018, Singla then took to Twitter, posting 43 messages under an anonymous account claiming to be hospitals were hacked and sharing some of the personal details he'd stolen, according to the court documents. After the attacks, Securalytics emailed potential clients offering its services and noting the recent attack on GMC. His attacks are said to have caused over $800,000 in financial harm to the hospitals, which Singler will pay back plus the interest and restitution. Although the former COO could have faced a jail term of up to 10 years, prosecutors are recommending 57 months of home detention probation due to the fact that Singler has been diagnosed with a rare and incurable form of cancer and potentially dangerous vascular condition. So I think that just might have saved his skin. But yeah, it's absolutely inexplicable how, an executive in a company decides to hack companies to generate more business. So that's a big no-no. And last but not least, while reviewing some of the articles and some of the headlines, I come across this article from Cisco, and I think this is an important thing to always think and address. And again, you can jump back to my videos about how to build a good cybersecurity program, and some of the other videos that I've covered around cybersecurity culture. But a culture essentially can make or break your cybersecurity initiatives or cybersecurity program delivery and how successful it can be. So having the right culture in place, it's probably the most important thing that you can build in an organization. So it's not uncommon in today's corporate world to see a creative marketer launching catchy security awareness campaigns, steering the entire company towards robust online safety practices. Elsewhere, job reviews increasingly assess how well employees are performing on the cybersecurity front. The shift in focus is clear. So organizations have come to understand that sophisticated tech tools aren't the ultimate solution. People are, we keep discussing that people are the weakest link. I don't always agree, but they always keep saying that 88% of data breaches are caused by employee mistakes. We need to dig deeper why these employee mistakes happen, but that's normally the headlines. They keep talking about employee mistakes. But not to mention that that we observed a surging trend of attacks that sidestep technology and instead zero in on people. That's normally, I guess, we're kind of highlighting social engineering. So the strategy is proven effective. So prominent ransomware incidents such as those affecting Colonial Pipeline, JBS Foods, and Cassia have dominated headlines. As our tech-driven defenses become more advanced, malicious actors are adapting, always looking for the easiest entry point, seeking efficient and reduced effort. These cyber attackers often find employees to be the most appealing targets. So it's important to understand your security culture. So the ambiguity surrounding the term security culture often stems from a foundational problem. It's frequent usage without a clear definition. So this lack of clarity paves the way for varied interpretations and assumptions. With this work, we aim to bring clarity to the concept. So security culture is described as the beliefs, traditions, and collective behaviors of a group that shape its security posture. So why does security culture matter? Sometimes, I guess, employees adopt pure security habits either independently or due to a lack of proper guidance from the organization. Addressing these habits can be challenging. However, establishing a robust security culture can change their behaviors, enabling an organization to safeguard its reputation, brand, and financial well-being. So what does the good security culture look like? So suppose an employee, someone named Alex, receives an email from a bank filled with typos and featuring a suspicious link. At a workplace lacking security culture, Alex thinks, this is odd, I'll set it aside for now. However, in a company with a solid security culture, Alex's immediate reaction is, this could be dangerous. I need to inform IT. Such a prompt action gives the tech team an early warning, allowing them to act before potentially more danger occurs. It isn't about just turning every employee into a cybersecurity specialist. It's about ensuring that each individual acts responsibly embodying the qualities of a security champion. Prioritizing values, attitudes, and beliefs over the rules and policies. I think that's very important. I always say to people, hire people, you hire people for a reason, so trust them to do the job correctly, but also understand that, we create policies and rules. Yes, they are for the reason, but sometimes they need to be circumvented but they have to be circumvented for the right reasons. So cyber threats often catch organizations off guard because a significant portion of their workforce isn't adequately essentially informed or prepared for these risks. So leaders hope that, for their teams to act responsibly, like, locking an unattended computer or reporting suspicious email. However, just organizing training sessions or phishing drills isn't the complete answer. It's the foundational values, the attitudes and beliefs about security that truly drive safe actions. So a genuine security culture anchored in shared responsibility and trust surpasses standalone policies or tech solutions in its effectiveness. So cybersecurity culture essentially gives your organization a competitive advantage. So when employees handle important data and systems daily, they play a key role in maintaining security. It's more than just, stopping threats. It's their careful actions essentially make business more reliable. This strong focus on cybersecurity can make your organization stand out and become a top choice for customers who value safety. I always preach, and that's why, I kind of discussing around my building cybersecurity programs, how we can commercialize security, how we can showcase our potential clients and customers, how we care about security and, breathing that secure culture. So that's an important way. So I guess the 7 must, ask questions for your leaders on making sure that security culture is built. So is cybersecurity a priority at all levels? So cybersecurity should be important at every level in an organization. It's not just, at the bottom. So, a maturity model that talks about, 4 different stages of organization. So, cybersecurity awareness. So everyone knows cybersecurity is part of their daily job. So that's the key, thing to be aware of. Next question is, how often are employees trained on cybersecurity best practices? I guess that's another very important aspect. Cybersecurity isn't a sort of once in a lifetime learn and do and forget thing. It's important to tailor your learning and awareness programs that starts with the initial. Yes, it starts with the initial onboarding, to make sure that everyone's is up to speed. But then, the key point is bite-size pieces or chunks of cybersecurity, tips, knowledge sharing, whatever you call it, but it has to be frequent and small, because annual awareness training is normally, it's a big chunky, people get discouraged from doing it, and normally, they forget within a month or two. So frequent is the key, and bite size is the key, and make it personable so people can actually relate to their day-to-day tasks. Next one is, what mechanisms are in place for reporting and addressing security incidents? So again, for your organization to be able to react quickly to security threats, there must be a clear system for spotting and sharing these risks. Essentially, every team member should be familiar with the signs of potential security threats and know exactly how to report them. Equally crucial is the company's response. So there should be an established process to address and mitigate these incidents. Next one, how do we encourage a proactive security mindset amongst employees? So that's, again, I guess that's where it comes, to with a, carrot or the stick. How do we treat our customers? So the key to a strong security isn't just responding to threats, but anticipating them. By nurturing an anticipating approach to security among employees, they won't just react, they'll be ready. They might even stop, potential risks before they even become real issues. So this proactive approach ensures that the team is always a step ahead, safeguarding a company's assets and reputations. But, and as I mentioned, you must be moving away from blame culture. You must always treat it with a carrot instead of a stick. Next one. So, are we measuring the effectiveness of our security culture initiatives? So, without metrics and regular evaluations, it's very challenging to determine if security initiatives are making an impact. So, metrics can range from, tracking things like incident frequency and training completion rates, to monitoring phishing simulation success, and the time taken essentially to respond to threats. Regularly assessing those metrics, and especially addressing trends, it can highlight where your culture in security is essentially going. Next one, are we addressing the human element in cybersecurity? So machines can be updated and patched, but human behavior is more of a complex to modify. So acknowledging humans are as a potential weak link means directly addressing the everyday online habits, training frequency, and awareness levels. So solutions might range from behavior analytics tool to that detect potentially unusual actions, to also hands-on training sessions that simulate essentially real-world cyber threats. And then lastly, and probably the most importantly, is are our leaders and executives setting the right example? So leadership behavior and commitment to cybersecurity cast a significant shadow over the organizations. When top-tier leaders actively upload and emphasize secure practices, it forces a ripple effect of cultivating a collaborative and essentially sense of responsibility. So I guess these are the questions to always think in your organization, and how you can enhance a secure culture in your environment. So I just wanted to thank you guys for sticking along and reviewing the last week's cybersecurity headlines, as well as discussing some of the topics around cybersecurity culture. Yeah, and that was episode 2. As I mentioned, always, reach out to me via LinkedIn, via my YouTube channel. If you have any suggestions, any comments, you need any help in breaking into cybersecurity, preparing for interviews in your career path, I'm always happy to help and expand and help the community. So thank you for listening in, and have a wonderful day.